employers, not poor farmers,
Yeah.
exploiting migrant workforces. But Tommy Tuberville has never met a corporate interest that he won't back. So,
which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's talk about Tuberville then.
yeah, I'm already irritated at Tuberville just from the article's title.
Yeah.
I'm irritated at Yellowhammer News.
Yeah.
It's very irritating.
So the headline of the article is Tuberville opposing Department of Labor rule placing union pressure on foreign farm workers. Now, this and that is what Tuberville is saying, but obviously, the people at Yellowhammer News taking that to be the article as if that is a fact and as if that is what's happening. They're just running propaganda for the people that donate to their campaigns and the campaigns of the politicians that they like. But so what happened is that Tommy Tuberville joined some other Republicans in a letter expressing opposition to a rule that they say would give unions the ability to pressure temporary foreign agriculture workers into becoming members. Quote, the proposed rule advances unionization on U.S. farms by making H-2A workers vulnerable to pressure, the senators said in the letter. It opens these workers up to coerced unionization and deprives workers of an informed choice about whether to unionize. I mean, just so silly.
Well, and don't you know, Senator Coach Tommy Tuberville is very concerned about coercion of migrant farm workers.
Right. And so, I talked about the pretend, defense of American workers against the scourge of undocumented and exploitable labor. And so here again, we have another example that he is protecting the H-2A program, which is used to, in large part, legally undermine U.S. labor, right? Because these people in the H-2A program, you have to be sponsored by an employer, and so you can imagine that the incentives do not align for these workers to be able to report their employers when they are abusing them, right? He says the proposed rule is unnecessary and will harm American consumers, American agriculture, and the H-2A workers themselves. Obviously not true. Obviously a lie. Here's another thing from the from their letter. It'll place an undue burden on American farmers, because currently the Department of Labor grants H-2A visas to employers to hire temporary foreign workers to address agricultural workforce needs. Employers request these visas because they face a shortage of domestic workers. And so if you actually care about the well-being of, the American workforce, you need to make sure that when if there is such a thing as actually a workforce shortage, you need to make sure that that is not a fig leaf for paying low wages and for using what really in a lot of cases amounts to slave labor in a lot of these instances. And over the course of doing Boss Watch, we have actually gone over instances where people who have used the H-2A visa program have been accused of literally having a slave labor regime. It will also hurt American families who are already having a hard time making ends meet. Under Bidenomics, food prices have soared. Bread, baby formula, and frozen fruits and vegetables are up almost 25% since January 2021. If this rule is adopted, food prices will increase even more. And so here's the thing. If food prices increase, why is that? Who is the one that decides whether or not the food prices increase? It's the companies. It's not the workers or the Department of Labor. But if food prices need to increase such that people who are agricultural workers can make a good living, then they need to increase, right? It's not worth it to be able to buy a banana for 25 cents if 25 cents is all that the workers make in a whole day. Right? You just, some things, and we actually talked to an immigration attorney on the program several years ago who was talking about how, how low the wages are for agricultural workers in the United States. And we got a caller who was talking about how, well, if they don't do that, then the price of lettuce is going to go up. And so that's why we have to keep exploiting these migrants.
Which, assumes that there's not room in the profit margins already of big ag to sustain living wages, which I think is a false assumption. And B, that it's worth it for you to maintain low prices at the expense of this highly exploited workforce. It's messed up. And I really resent Tuberville and his colleagues for this sort of resentment they're trying to stoke. These scary unions, they might unionize these farm workers who might then get a raise, which then might make your food prices go up. And, you should be scared about that. It's just ridiculous.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yep.
And it's also not even really attached to what the rule would do. It's not as if this rule, like the DOL is passing a rule and then all of a sudden all the farm workers are now suddenly unionized. It's not that. It's just providing a more level playing field for the unions to be able to organize.
Yeah. And so actually we pulled a fact sheet from Farm Worker Justice Group talking about what it actually does. And so what it actually does is there are, around collective action and labor organizing activities, it would expand H-2A workers' access to labor unions by giving labor organizations a narrow right of access to employer-provided housing. It would also require employers to provide a list of workers to a requesting labor organization, permit workers to designate a representative to attend any meeting between a worker and the employer where the worker reasonably believes that the meeting may lead to discipline, and prohibit employers from holding captive audience meetings unless the employer provides certain information to ensure that such meetings are not coercive. And so, this is all really important stuff, especially because when you think about H-2A workers, a lot of them have employer-provided housing. That means they never actually really leave the farm. So in order to talk to them about the rights that they have in this country, to organization, to representation, to unionization, you have to be able to get into the employer-provided housing in certain, you have to be able to get into that area. Obviously, this would not allow you to just union organize and break down the door, right? But you can get in that area, and that's important, and it's necessary. And providing a list of workers, also very important, because the employer has all that information. And so the labor organizations that are interested in talking to these workers about organization should have that too. And being able to designate a representative, also very important, because when you think, again, a lot of these workers are definitionally immigrants, and so therefore a lot of them do not know the labor rules in this country. And so being able to designate a representative who is knowledgeable about labor rules generally, but also the H-2A visa program specifically, would be incredibly important and could be life-changing for these people. Another clarification in the new rule would be the clarification of just cause in termination. And it would define termination for cause by proposing 6 criteria that must be satisfied to ensure that disciplinary or termination processes are justified and reasonable, and that disciplinary actions are documented. These proposed changes will help to ensure employers do not arbitrarily and unjustly terminate workers whose visa is tied to their employment. Again, this is obvious. If your visa is tied to your employment, the country, the United States, should do everything in our power to make sure that that is not wielded over you in an unjust way. Another addition to the rule is around transportation safety. It would require the provision, maintenance, and wearing of seat belts in some employer-provided transportation, which would reduce the hazards associated with agricultural worker transportation. Essentially, if a vehicle is manufactured with seat belts, the proposed rule would require the employer to retain and maintain those seat belts in good working order and ensure that each worker is wearing a seat belt before the vehicle is operated. Around passport and document withholding, it would directly prohibit an employer from confiscating and holding a worker's passport, visa, or other immigration or government identification document. And this change would better protect workers from potential labor trafficking. So these are all really important things. And this is what, think about what I've been talking about. This is all, none of this is radical stuff. None of this is, I'm going to turn over the ownership of the farm to any union, the first union that runs up to the door. This is all incredibly modest and moderate and reasonable things. And these are the things that Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville is opposing. I mean, genuine, wicked, wicked stuff. Very frustrating seeing that. And seeing the people that are buying it too, right? I mean, some people are actually think that, this, this new rule is just big government for no reason coming in and trying to tell poor farmers, poor American farmers, what they can do for no reason.
Yeah, not poor farmers.
Yeah.
Employers exploiting migrant workforces. That's it. That's, different scenario. But Tommy Tuberville has never met a corporate interest that he won't back. So
Exactly. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.